Hey, man.
What? Hey, man. What's up?
Hey, man.
Thank you.
Have you ever heard of the Black Knight satellite?
No. Black Knight satellite?
Yeah.
Yes. They mention it in the Fairly Odd Parents theme song. Grey Goose, Chocolate Mousse, Black Knight satellite. Right? That's in there.
hate how well that fits.
Fairly Odd Parents. Yeah, that was pretty good right there.
I'm pretty impressed at how well that fits. No, it's not from that. It's from something entirely different. Honestly, it could be in there.
Sure.
But
It is in there.
I don't think it is.
That's where I know it from.
I think it's Grey Goose is what you're thinking of.
No.
Grey Goose is
Not.
Grey Goose is in it.
Grey Goose is not in it.
Which now that I said
Grey
that
Goose
as an adult,
is a vodka.
I know. Now that I said that as an adult, I'm like,
It's
why was that in there?
Grey Moose, right? Green Moose. Green Moose, Java Juice. Shoot. I can't think of.
I'm pretty sure it's Grey Goose.
It's not Grey Goose. Grey Goose is mentioned in Royals by
but
by that girl from The Ring.
I don't care about that. Oh, okay. Here it is. Obtuse rubber goose, green moose, guava juice.
Black Knight satellite.
It's close. Giant snake, birthday cake, large fries, chocolate shake. It's interesting.
Giant cake, birthday cake.
Giant snake, birthday cake, large fries,
Black Knight
chocolate
satellite.
It's interesting to me because there's not another verse in this song that is even remotely close to that.
It goes, giant snake, birthday cake, Black Knight satellite, we didn't start the fire. It's all the same.
I just respect that this was very clearly he needed another verse and was just like,
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole point of the song was that the fairies can make anything appear.
Oh, I guess that's true. And so he's giving him.
And so he's like, giant snake, birthday cake, large fry, chocolate shake.
But the first line, obtuse. Why does he? What is he getting an obtuse triangle? Like, what is the point of that?
What is the rest of it? It's obtuse
rubber goose.
And obtuse rubber goose.
No, obtuse, comma, rubber goose.
No,
That's a separate thing.
No. It shouldn't be.
But obtuse, what is an obtuse rubber goose?
A large rubber goose.
Obtuse does not mean large. Urban Dictionary.
Why would you go Urban Dictionary? Why do you need to see what the kids say what it is?
Oh, interesting.
What does Urban Dictionary say that it is?
Well, I just did normal dictionary. So obtuse, what I was thinking of is
the obtuse angle.
But yeah, the angle.
Which is the what angle, Tim?
It's between 90 and 180.
Which would be would you categorize that as like a large angle?
I mean, I guess it's a wide angle.
Because there's a right angle.
Yeah.
And there's acute. Which is
and then there's an obtuse angle.
And then obtuse.
I mean, I guess it's a wide angle. You're right. I guess it's a wider angle. But I've never heard someone use it that way. Anyways, the other one is what you are, is annoyingly insensitive and slow to understand.
You just really want to take that shot today, or?
Yeah, you're really coming off like an obtuse rubber goose right now.
All right.
You don't have to point it out.
Okay.
Hey, let me ask you a weird question.
No, that's okay.
It's just been on my mind.
No, I will not let you. When did the theme song roll? Did it go?
It should have. No, I've got a weird question for you.
Do it now.
Obtuse, rubber goose, green moose, guava juice, giant snake, birthday cake, large fries, chocolate shake.
Ba-da-da-da.
I love, and that'll fit perfectly.
Things that I learned last night. It's the show that gives you a fright. It's things I learned last night. Ba-da. Things I learned last night. TILLN.
I don't think I'd make it as a cartoon person.
Okay. So, the Black Knight satellite.
Oh no, something's been on my mind. I gotta ask you a question.
What's up?
when you meet someone new and like you go to their house for the first time.
We're both married, so it's not.
No, not like that.
Not like when you
just
meet
like
someone new.
Just
When
like
you-
a regular person.
When you meet somebody new.
Yeah,
you know?
no, obviously not a woman, just a regular person.
Why did you say that? Why did you say that?
Like, you called it into question. I had to be clear.
Okay, so not a regular.
I don't think you had to say it like that, though.
I just wanted to
So
provide some clarity.
when you make a new friend
yeah,
and you go over to their house,
for the first time,
okay,
do you look through all their stuff? I feel like people talk about
what?
snooping like it's like a bad thing that you shouldn't do. I
Wait,
do it every time.
You do it?
Yeah,
Did you snoop my house?
100%.
Why?
100%. I snooped your apartment. I snooped your apartment in Springfield. I snooped your dorm room. I snooped your parents' house. And every time I meet someone, I'm just like, what are you hiding in these cabinets?
Okay. So I think there's levels of snooping that I would like to clarify. Jeez. So if you go to someone's house,
Yeah.
the bathroom, fair game. All right.
Bathroom is 100%
You can
fair game.
snoop whatever you want.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah,
lock on the door. People don't care how long you're in there.
Yeah.
They care. But like,
There's a point.
there's a point where they start to care.
Yeah.
Where they go, hey, you've been in there for a minute.
Like, hey, are you all right?
Now, you're saying that you snoop like the rest of the house?
Yeah.
Master
Kitchen.
bedroom. I don't even go in people's master bedrooms.
Yeah, typically I won't. Now, after that one time. No, when I was young, I would. I learned at some point, probably
None
like
of
middle
this
school, I
sounds good,
shouldn't.
dude. The way you're saying stuff is so bad. When I was younger, I'd do that. Yeah. Now that I'm older, I don't go in master bedrooms anymore.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid,
There's just some curiosity that I can't. Like, I'm like, what do you got in those drawers, man?
you don't hear that. You don't hear that at all. You said, "What do you got in those drawers?" And you.
It's not a weird thing. I'm just like,
What you got in them drawers?
just curious what's in there. Like, it's not a weird thing about it, though. Like, I'm not going to do anything.
Doesn't hear it. Ow. Doesn't hear it. He's continuing on.
I know people act like it's problematic. I know that.
Drawers is pants.
I know that.
And you're
I
saying
understand
people
that.
act like it's problematic to go around being like, what you got in them drawers? Sure, I get that people don't like that. But like, I like it.
Like, I'm just curious. It's
Tim,
just curiosity.
We're not talking about snooping in people's houses anymore. I'm
I
talking
know
about
what you're saying. I get what you're saying. You ever do that though? It's not just me.
Oh my gosh.
I found knives before, like in drawers where there shouldn't be knives.
Stop talking about things that aren't the Black Knight satellite. I only want you to talk about the Black Knight satellite. I don't want to hear anything else from you right now.
All right. So the Black Knight satellite is, we'll start with a picture of it. Here's the Black Knight satellite, theoretically.
I told you what I found in my grandma's drawers. When her house burned down.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, okay. It was a lot of drug paraphernalia.
See,
So-
sometimes it's good to know.
Yeah.
So here's
Okay,
the Black
so
Knight
the
satellite.
Black Knight satellite.
The Black Knight satellite. This is it. This is a photograph of it from the space station.
Hold on.
This was during the construction of the space station. Yeah. What?
Is this like a? Is this like a? Or do people own this?
Oh, are you asking if this is an alien thing?
Yeah.
It might be an alien thing.
Okay. Do people own the whatever we're doing?
Nobody owns this.
For everyone to know, it looks like if you took a leather jacket off of the hanger and then just held it by the collar of the jacket, and you were just like, that's straight up that's a great visualization of what this thing looks like.
That is a really
and then just
good
put that on a
description
blue
of it.
background because they're in space. I don't think they went, and so
Here's another angle of it. That one's a little grainier.
looks like a praying mantis.
Another photo. That's
I like this
interesting.
game.
And then here's another angle of it from the History Channel.
That's okay.
So here's the concept. This satellite, this photograph, and really all these photographs were taken at one time. They're just different moments along its flight path. Was taken from a spacewalk during the construction of the International Space Station, which they were assembling up in space.
Sure.
And then got his DSLR out, took a photo of the satellite as it floated by. This image has since been declassified, but a good description of what it is hasn't been given to us. And so it's become known as the blacklight satellite in UFO lore.
Oh, shoot, dude.
What?
The UFO people are going to find this, and we did a whole thing about how you're doing casual break and entering. Dang it, dude. How is it every time?
Every episode.
Bro, that's going to happen. You know what the topic is.
Yeah. Maybe this is like a self-conscious,
Maybe
like a
this is
subconscious self-sabotage.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe you do this.
Maybe I do.
Because it's like some kind of punishment. You like the negative comments that we get on YouTube.
I do like it.
Yeah.
I see people, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. I see people like online that talk about like negative comments like bothering them. And I've never, like we get some.
Yeah, dude, because they're usually pointed at me, man.
I know.
They're
they've been pointed
almost
at me
all of them
too.
on these UFO ones are like, if the guy on the right would shut up, the guy on the left's trying to tell a story, and the guy on the right's just making jokes the whole time. I can't imagine that doesn't bother you. That's crazy.
No,
you're saying you can just read that and you go, I read that and let it brush right off my shoulder. I was like, man, these people are my friends and my fans. I can't believe that people don't like the things people say about them on the internet.
No, I've had negative stuff thrown at me too. More of those are definitely directed at you.
Yeah.
But I've never had a problem with it. It doesn't bother me. But I definitely do have like a...
For now, you didn't like that. You didn't like that same Pick a Tim account that existed.
No, I didn't have any issues with that.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like that I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it.
And you were like what the frick is this?
Yeah, I wanted to know. I was the mystery of it.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to know. Yeah.
It was a fun little mystery. I was like, I'm going to get caught anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how criminals feel, you know?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. If you like our show, please leave a review, leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube, and go check out other episodes. Here's one that I hate, the Lonnie Zamora incident. You know me, just not a big fan of the alien episodes, but if that's your jam, that's out there. So go check that out. It's a very fun episode. I think you'd like it. I hated it. So anyway, back to this episode.
Anyway, so the Black Knight satellite, it all started with Nikola Tesla.
Okay.
It really does. The story goes back to Nikola Tesla. He was in 1899 conducting some experiments with radio signals. He wanted to see what radios did. And so he was playing around with the signals and stuff like that. Kind of. They're pretty accurate, actually. And he received something that nobody knew about yet, including him, until he knew about it. He received a signal that he said, okay, either this radio signal came from the upper atmosphere, or it came from outer space. And he was shocked to have received this, obviously, because we didn't know radio signals could exist without human hands manipulating them. And so he was shocked to receive a radio signal from space. And so he reported this, and the scientific community, at this time, the scientific scientific community had issues with Nikola Tesla. They were like, he's a little crazy.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, he says stuff that's like, you should pay attention to what he says.
Right.
But like, we don't like him.
Why didn't they like him? Do you know? Do you remember?
Because he was crazy.
Oh, they were just like, he's a weird guy.
Yeah, he had some theories about, so without going too far into it, he had some kind of like the vibrations, like, you know, those people who are like the vibrations of the universe, you can connect to the vibrations of the universe and it'll tell you everything about everything. He was kind of one of those guys. And so he believed if you could connect to those vibrations, you could understand everything.
He's one of those guys?
But you could also, but he also thought that you could get energy from it. And so he was trying to, like, the Tesla coils.
So he would have like dreads and be living in a van in this world right now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because
bending spoons with his mind.
I don't know if he would be doing that, because he was at least smart enough to figure out how to get funding. So he got people to fund his projects, so he could build. He had the Tesla coil in Colorado Springs, and he was building these like really intuitive energy sources that were working. And I think that was the bigger thing, is he was kind of challenging the status quo and threatening an established energy industry. But he was also kind of cuckoo at the same time. He was very much a mad scientist.
Sure.
Anyways, years later, we would figure out the radio signals that he was capturing were pulsars. You know what those are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a note for the astronomical community, rename pulsars into pulse stars.
Hey now, these are pole stars. We used to call them pole stars, but hey now they're pole stars. That we can't do anymore.
Grey Goose. Guava juice.
Jeez.
NASA just loves vodka.
Okay. I made a joke about Lorde earlier.
Yeah.
With her royal song, and I called her the girl from the Ring, and you just didn't even. I said, it's that song with the girl from the Ring, and you just kept going. And I like that.
I totally missed that. So anyways, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, these were pulsars that he was hearing.
Sure.
Maybe not. We'll come back
Maybe.
to that.
What channel was it on? 100.5?
93.3.
He just dials in and he goes, hey, we're back with the K-Love Pledge Drive. It's going on for a millennium. And you can just donate whenever you can. Just go ahead and open your little
wallet.
Quigley phone. And that's
Quigley phone?
I don't know what they're called up there. And I don't know what I know.
You're saying this is the aliens K-Love.
Yeah.
This is not Earth K-Love traveling time. That's what I thought. I thought it was
this
like
is alien K-Love.
time traveling K-Love.
Yeah.
This is alien K-Love. Yikes. Oh.
Positive, encouraging, definitely real.
Positive, encouraging. Blorg.
Blah, blah, blah.
Maybe pulsars, maybe something else. I'll tell you in a minute. It's
Okay.
spoiler alert, probably the Black Knight satellite. And then there was a guy named Jorgen Halls. He was an amateur radio operator who was experimenting with radio signals as well.
Yeah.
And noticed he could get radio signals to echo back at him if he shot them into the atmosphere.
Okay.
But what was interesting is you would expect that if you were echoing off of something, it would be obvious like intervals, like that was bouncing back at something the same interval, but they were random. And so he was thinking, these are getting repeated back to me, not being echoed back to me.
Sure.
And so something's hearing this and they're sending the same tone back. They're like mimicking me. It's like when you knock on a wall and your neighbor knocks on the wall back, or the Hat Man
and then
knocks
they go,
back.
and then they go, chicken bacon ranch. And you're like, okay. Meatballs. Okay, cool.
Meatballs marinara. Oh my gosh, I haven't. Okay. So this is something that is a real scientific phenomena.
Sure.
He discovered it. This amateur discovered it, and then science was like, "Hey, let's look at that."
And science was like, we discovered that.
Science was like, "That was our idea."
Like, okay.
And he was like, "All right."
I thought of that first.
They named it long delayed echoes, or LDEs. But here's what's interesting about it. They said you can send a radio signal out to space, and at random intervals that we can't trace down a pattern,
It'll send it
It'll
back.
echo back the same tone. Will get echoed back, but we have no idea why.
Because it bounces off something.
Yeah, so there's theories about why it happens, but we still have no idea what's
Or
causing
there's
it.
just an alien up there that's just 20, he's just been like, and the alien's like
Fine.
the guy
He's
in
got a-
Lost
he's got a
who keeps
keyboard.
putting in the numbers because he's like, I don't know what's going to happen if I don't. You
Yeah,
know? And he's
yeah.
like, all right. Quigleys are saved again.
We saved the Quigleys.
Okay.
Don't do that. The long delayed echoes, we don't know what those are. So
Sure.
maybe Black Knight satellite. This will all come together in a minute. I've got to lay a lot of
Yeah, I
random
don't know. We're going like,
foundations.
sure,
I got to lay a lot
sure.
of random. It'll come together.
Sorry, I'll quit doing bits then.
Okay, so in 1954, there was a former Navy pilot who went to newspapers and said, "Hey, the Air Force has been just tracking these 2 satellites that have been orbiting Earth. We've been tracking them. We don't know where they're from or whose they are." What's interesting is we know now that nobody successfully launched a satellite into orbit until 1957. So this is 3 years before any human hands got a satellite in space. Sputnik 1 was the first one.
Okay.
And so at the time, everybody was panicking and they were like, oh, the Soviets got a satellite up there.
They did it.
And they've got it orbiting and they beat us to it. And that's, he told newspapers.
And the Soviets were like, we thought you did that.
You did that. And then they're like, oh, it's the aliens.
It's freaking some dude in Florida. Like, I did it. And you're like, what? He's like, I got it up
An
there.
amateur space guy.
Just slingshotted it up
I got
there.
a slingshot. Yeah. It's pretty surprising how far you can get little stuff to go really far.
Crazy,
Yeah,
man.
if it's small enough, it could go so far away.
Yeah.
You just got to put a big enough rocket on it.
Yeah. You got to put an obtuse rocket on
It's
it.
just such an annoying rocket.
Would you keep going? We got a lot of groundwork to lay.
So he spoke. He spoke about this group in the government
Okay.
after this whole event happened, and he called them the silence group. He's like, there's a group within the government that doesn't want you to know about these satellites, and he's like, they're not our satellites.
Okay.
They're not made by human hands, and they want to keep it silent. That's why they're called the silence group.
Okay.
And so, kind of honestly, like the Men in Black.
Sure.
Similar concept, you know? And then there was a guy named Duncan Lunen, who was a science fiction writer. And stay with me for a second. He's a science
It's
fiction writer.
always one of these guys.
He's a science fiction writer who there was this...
His whole job is to make stuff up. That's like the job description.
Stay with me for a second.
Sergeant Winslow versus the Black Knight satellite.
In space, you tend not to think much. You just do what you're told and try to stay alive.
Coming this fall.
So Duncan, there was a signal that was a relatively famous signal in the 70s that we received from space. Most likely a pulsar. But he took this signal and he studied it for years.
Sure.
And he solved it. And transliterated it into English. And said this is a map of the Boötes star system, which is a distant star system. And so the signal, the tones were coordinates identifying this star system. And he said they're trying to tell us that they come from this star system.
What?
Yeah. Which is interesting.
So we got the booties.
Here's what's interesting. We'll dive down this rabbit hole for a split second.
Sure.
I've wanted to cover this in an episode, but I haven't had a reason until now. The Boötes system is a galaxy, or it's not a galaxy, it's a star system within the Boötes void, which
Okay.
is the largest void that we know about in like the
So
observable.
those stars are just in the middle
Yes.
of this void.
Of this void. Well, what's interesting is most like subsections of space, like you can kind of estimate, like in just the normal density of galaxies, like how many star systems you could expect to see in an area of space. This is an area that is nearly 330 million light years in diameter. So it's a massive section of space. In a space this large, we would typically expect there to be roughly 2,000 galaxies in this section of space. But obviously, looking at it, you don't see that many. They estimate there's only 60 that sit within this void. So it's obviously very strange because you look around this, like the rest of the galaxy doesn't have sections of space that are this just open with nothing in it. They say that if Earth, or our star system, was in the center of Bode's void, we wouldn't know that there was another galaxy that existed until 1988 because we wouldn't have instruments that could perceive them. That's how giant this void is, which is absolutely bonkers. And so this is significant because if this signal is true, that they're highlight whatever this signal was coming from, an alien race that was saying they were from this star system.
Sure.
Theoretically, that could explain the Bode's void of why this is here. Because we don't know exactly. There's some pretty good theories, and I could tell you those in a second. But one of the theories is Dyson spheres. And if that's a...
Dyson spheres?
Yeah.
Like the vacuum?
No. Remember that episode we talked about them? Not the vacuum. It's not the vacuum. We didn't cover the vacuum in there.
Speaking of the vacuum, one of our sponsors.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. We talked about it in the...
If you haven't heard the episode, there is a theoretical technology that is that civilizations could create to harness energy from stars. And it's like a sphere that wraps around the star.
Is this like in the Kardashev scale episode?
Yeah, the Kardashev scale. That's right. And so the Dyson sphere wraps around the star and sucks the energy from the star, which would dim the star because it's sucking energy from it. And so if there was an alien race that was...
figured out how to harness the power of their stars.
Yeah, then they would inevitably spread outwards and just continue to build these Dyson spheres around stars, which is interesting because you can kind of see the edges are dim. Like they're not, it's like they're sucking the energy out of the stars. They haven't completely stamped them out yet. So it's an interesting concept if that is what is actually happening there.
Hey, thanks for being a part of this episode. If you want to help us do more of this, you want to help us grow our show, one of the easiest and best ways to do that is to join our Patreon. It's a way for you financially to support this show, and you get a lot in return. You get access to our Discord channel. You get bonus content that comes out. You get exclusive merchandise and like live Zoom hangouts where we're both just hanging out, eating pizza, just getting to know each other. The biggest thing is we want to know you more as an individual and as a friend. So thanks for supporting our show. If you don't support us financially, we're not pressed about it. We're not like mad, but I'll find you. So text TILLN to 66866 to keep yourself from being found. All right, because if you don't, I will hunt you down.
The leading theory by most scientists right now about what happened to the Bode's void is that it's kind of like if you, like, pour some soap all over your countertop. You ever do this? And it gets real bubble.
But I do it to my friend's house every time I go over there.
Every time I go over, sometimes
I just, you snoop, I soap. You know
what this counter needs? Just needs to get real slippery.
Met someone new and invited him over to our house. And then he took our Dawn dish soap and then
just
the
bathroom for a long time.
And it was like, I'm doing a booty void. And you're like, oh, what? It's a booty void.
And then when he was done, he said, hey, come look at my booty void. And we were like, no.
That's okay.
And he made us come in there and he showed us the counter was just covered in Dawn dish soap.
He's like, yeah.
So much Dawn dish soap.
Stars go dim, am I right?
But the explanation is that if you pour some soap on a counter, you kind of have those bubbles.
Yeah.
And if those bubbles come together, they merge. And so they said over millions of years, there were a bunch of voids and they've all just sort of merged together to create
Interesting.
a really big void.
So there's some kind of pressure or pocket in this.
And
that.
what's interesting is you can't really see them super well. There's some dim ones that kind of start to move through the middle. There's kind of almost like a line. And so the idea is that those are the bubbles kind of merging together still, kind of forcing those out. So, or aliens are taking the energy from the stars.
Sure.
Void is
probably the second one.
Yeah, that's the most likely possibility. The reason why these are all connected, because people say, the theories are saying that the explanation for all these signals is it's coming from the Black Knight satellite. And
sure,
that's where we're hearing these radio signals from. This is watching over us. And it's been here for a long time. And the reason why we know it's been here for a long time is because that guy who translated it, and it said it's been here for 13,000 years.
Jeez.
And the reason why he knows that is because the star map.
And this is the science fiction writer, right?
Yes. So the star map, one of the planets on it is out of position where it should be. And so he went back in time. He didn't go back in time.
One of his characters did.
He looked back.
One of his characters went back in time.
Through the record. Because obviously, throughout time, stars move.
Sure.
Based on the wobble of the Earth. And so he went through.
Based on the wobble?
Yeah. Wobble, baby, wobble, baby, wobble, baby. Stars in the wrong spot. So he went back through the record, and where that planet lied in the system would be 13,000 years in the past.
From
and
the window to the wall. These stars aren't where they go. There's a big old hole in space. It works.
I hate that. So this thing got here.
It's all up here.
This thing got here 13,000
years ago. You should hear the things I
ago.
don't say. You should hear the stuff that I go, that's okay.
No, that one can stay.
For a different time.
So people, proponents of the Black
I
Knight
see you've
satellite.
been shaping your beard.
I've always shaped my beard.
Yeah, but you've been doing a good job lately. You've been better at shaping it
you.
a little bit, shaving whatever's on the cheeks here,
Yeah.
and then shaping it. It just looks even. It's good.
Just bringing it down a little bit.
It's good.
Thank you. The Black Knight
Now
satellite.
all that's needed is for the rest of it to grow in right there.
Now that's what needed is for you to cut off the rest of it.
Anyway,
The Black Knight satellite, the proponents of the Black Knight satellite say, okay, this thing came here 13,000 years ago to monitor us, and it's been
Sure.
watching us, sending signals
we
back
got a
to the
freaking
Bodhi's
hall
void,
monitor in space.
sending signals back to the Bodhi's void, just kind of watching us. And what they're doing, who knows? There's actually some interesting theories. Could be science, could be military use cases. My favorite is we are basically this is their Animal Planet.
Yeah, we're their reality TV.
Yeah. They're
Here's two creatures
just like that.
recording what they call a podcast.
They're getting ready for the morning commute. So this has been here for 13,000 years
Sure.
watching us. It's sending
Which
us
sucks because
signals.
the Earth's only 6,000 years old. It's bored for a long time. And then one day it was like, whoa,
Where did this come from?
what is that?
You guys aren't going to believe this.
Can you imagine if aliens do come to
Something
Earth
big happened.
and they get in touch with Ken Ham? You know what I'm saying?
They land on the White House lawn, and the president is like, you should talk to
The president
Ken
at the
Ham.
time is an idiot who goes,
You should talk to Ken
you should
Ham.
talk to Ken Ham. And then they're forced to go talk to, because here's what happens, is they're going to believe the first story they're told.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And the first story they're going to get told is, this is the real Ark. We found it. We've turned it into this museum.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And here's all the animals in it. And then the satellite's been watching over us for years, and people have been allegedly sighting this thing.
Sure.
Both from the ground and from space ever since.
I wake up in the middle of the night and it's in my room.
And it's telling me it's subway order.
Satellite?
It's like,
Bacon, lettuce.
Okay.
here's the thing. So there's a lot of people who really, really believe in the Black Knight satellite.
Sure.
Like this is a legitimate alien outpost or satellite that's watching us and reporting back to the Booties void. But here's the deal. This image has been declassified by NASA. They've declassified all these images. What the Black Knight satellite people just kind of brush over is the explanation that's come with these images.
Which is what?
So this is, I think, a recreation. I don't think this is a real
that's
image.
definitely not a real one.
This was a series of photographs that was taken during the construction or the assembly of the space station. And what this was a thermal blanket that was removed from some covering on a piece that they were assembling. And it just kind of started floating out into space.
Okay.
Which is why it's kind of flipping around, and in every shot you see it, it looks totally different. And in this one, it looks
That's what
like
I was saying. It straight up looks like fabric. So I was kind of right.
You were, yeah. But it's a thermal blanket, so it's somewhat reflective.
What are we keeping the space station warm?
Well, you got to keep
You got to keep it covered like a Corvette in a carport?
No, well, you got to keep the parts covered because it's cold in space. You got to keep them covered. You got to keep them protected from the sun until you get your gloss on them. Until you get your glossiness on them. Yeah, so this was just this was just a thermal blanket that was dropped in space, and they took a picture and NASA declassified it, and everyone was like, NASA declassified an alien spaceship.
That's what I'm saying. Is that freaking, just because it was classified, all of a sudden it's like, oh, they were hiding this, and look what they were hiding, you know?
Yeah, it's classified because you can't talk
about blankets.
talk about blanket. The public is not ready to hear about this blanket.
Yeah.
That's what the owner of the Snuggie said until he came out with it, until he got a patent.
And then
he said the public can't
And I'll
know
tell you
about
what, I saw the first Snuggie commercial, and my dad lost his mind, dude. My dad goes there, he's like, they stole my idea. Christy, get in here. It's a blanket with armholes.
He was right. The public wasn't ready for that. They weren't ready for that kind of knowledge. And what's more interesting is that when this came out, this whole backstory was created.
Right.
That connected Nikola Tesla and that other UFO researcher and LDEs and all this other stuff that was not connected in any way.
They connected Nicola, Jorgen, and Duncan.
Yes, actually.
I remember their names.
Jorgen, Duncan, guava juice.
Well, I remember Jorgen because I was like, that's a name that should make a comeback.
That should. I don't.
I'm Jaron. This is my wife, Reagan. This is our beautiful kids. We've got Nicholas.
Jorgen. It's a combination of your two names.
And,
Jorgen.
Brittany and Jorgen.
Everyone would literally think that you were just trying to put your names together.
I've been doing this bit lately where because I do about the kids' name stuff. So I just been asking. I go, are there any millennial parents in here? People go, whoo. I go, your kids got stupid names? And everyone goes, you know. And I go, no, what are they? I said, do your kids have stupid names? And every mom goes, no. And then I go, I'll decide. I said, what are your kids' names? And this lady goes, well, my oldest is Kyle. And I said, oh. I said, okay, that's a normal name, but
the worst.
He's not going to be 80, you know? You don't know any old Kyles. And she goes, he's going to die young. And I was like, no, you don't get to say that. I was like, why you say that?
You can't say that.
And then she goes, yeah, my second is, what was it?
Kylie.
No, it was like Asher.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, you know? Dumb name.
I think Asher's cool because you can shorten it to Ash, and that is cool.
Stupid.
Oh, okay.
What, are you going to name your kid Asher Stone?
I don't think Asher Stone flows well.
I don't think so either. Yeah. I don't think any name flows well. You shouldn't have kids. I just want to shut that down now.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Brianna Stone doesn't flow well. That's why she hasn't changed her name. She just doesn't hurt to tell you.
Legally. Okay, but Duncan, here's the interesting thing. Duncan Lunen, the guy who translated the signal, didn't.
He's a science fiction writer.
Well, one, he's a science fiction writer, but two, he didn't translate the signal.
He was just doing the fiction part.
So he translated a signal.
Oh.
He translated a signal and came out and wrote about it, translated this signal, and it was like in the 90s or something. And everyone was like, this guy figured it out. And everyone was like, oh, that's crazy. A couple years later, he's like, yeah, I made that up. And then...
Fiction.
Yeah. And then...
he's like, guys, it's literally in my, I was a young adult writer then. And now I've grown up a little bit more.
Now I'm an old adult writer.
And I realized that you guys didn't realize that was fiction.
That was fiction. That was fake. It's not real. The Black Knight satellite people picked that up and they're like, oh, he's talking about the Black Knight satellite. And he's like, I never said that. And he's like, he said also the one that I was translating was like a signal that came from near the moon. And this was coming from near Earth orbit, the Black Knight satellite. So he's like, it's not the same thing. And he's like been very vocal. He's got a blog, been very vocal on his blog. I checked about the fact that.
What's his blog called?
It is called, hold on.
Black Knight Satellite, getitright.com.
I'm pretty
Black Knight Satellite, get it right, 1-800-DIG-RIGHT.
Dig right.
Call 1-800-DIG-RIGHT.
Yeah, he's like, I never said it was that. And he's like, you guys just decided it was that. And so this is just the whole Black Knight satellite story is this hodgepodge of ideas that got mixed together and blended together to be like, oh, it's the thing. It's not a thing. And here's the whole moral of the story. Here's why I'm bringing this whole thing up.
Sure.
Aliens are real.
And when you make up these stories where you're crying wolf, then people aren't going to believe us.
When we do things like the Skinwalker Ranch, when we do things like Black Knight Satellite, it makes you look crazy. There's legitimate stuff out there. We don't have to go pull these wires to this weird connections.
So I just want to say what you're trying to do this episode. Unreal. You're trying to appeal to the alien audience to say stop doing rational.
This. Yeah, and I waited until the end of this episode where none of them made it to the end.
That's what I'm saying.
No, it just bothers me, man. It bothers me that we have something that is as legitimate as aliens are, that is so publicly illegitimate because of crap like this. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. It's just like math, man. If all these people would stop doing this stupid
Wait, what? What was that pivot at the end of that?
There's a lot of people who give math a bad name.
As an interviewer, what I've learned is that if you just let your guests talk, if you just sit there silently, they'll say some insane stuff. He goes, aliens are real. And like a lot of people are giving them a bad rap, dude. Just like Common Core math. This derailed so fast at the end. Let's get it back on track and get us into the Fiddle Off, dude. What are you supposed to...
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this episode, make sure you subscribe. Leave a comment to outweigh all the grifters. And then we've got playlists on the screen. You can watch new videos if you haven't seen them. We have a massive back catalog, so you should go check them out. If you want to become a patron, you can go to TILLN.com to do that or buy our merch, whatever you want. Just thanks for being here. We appreciate you.